Welcome to a live edition of the Upshot podcast as we break down the final round of the USDGC and Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship. He is Josh Mansfield. I am Charlie Eisenhood, and it was a remarkable final day in Rock Hill. The sun was shining. There was also some rain, and when it all shook out, Paul McBeth held on to win his third USDGC title, putting him into very elite company. He becomes just the fourth player to win at least 3 USDGCs. He's trying to chase down Climo. And over in the FPO, Missy Gannon comes away the winner. It came all the way down to the wire, all the way to 18, but she comes away the winner. It's an A tier, but really though, it's a major. Let's be honest. It's a major. We're going to talk about that. And there's so much to get to. We're not going to get to it all tonight. We're also going to be talking about this, of course, next week and probably for a couple of weeks to come. We also have to get ready for the Pro Tour Championship, which is coming up just next weekend. We're like 5 days away from, $30,000 first place prizes in both divisions. Crazy. But Josh, I don't even know where to begin. I'm gonna leave it to you. You tell me where you want to start tonight. Is it McBeth and Klein in the playoff? Is it Missy Gannon and Valerie Mondahano battling on 17? Do you want to talk about the stream? I mean, you tell me.
I want to start with McBeth on hole 17. And with the hole 17, we got to set a little bit of context here. Kyle Klein is on hole 18. He is very fortunate to stay in bounds on his drive. And at this point, he's 26 under par. He throws his upshot that the commentators, Philo and Ian were like, yeah, there's no way you can go for it from here. And then he goes for it far, like real far. And he gets right up there at just outside circle one. He is staring down a death putt. And he's like just steps up and he runs it. Hits low, drops down, takes the par, no harm, no foul. First off, the guts to run that. Amazing. But then after it's finished, Kyle Klein's score starts jumping all over the place.
What was
it goes
going
up to
on
27.
with that?
I have no idea. But it was on UDisc as well. So, because if you look, Drew Gibson is showing Paul as he's walking down. Paul is thrown safe far on the island on hole 17.
And notably, he threw a forehand.
Shot.
He threw a forehand after trying to go with the backhand every other round.
Yeah. I don't know very many players that opt for the backhand who have a very good forehand. I mean, you have those players who just aren't comfortable with a forehand, so they go with the backhand route. But Paul has a great forehand, so I don't know. But anyway,
I think McBeth believes that it's easier to get the birdie if you throw the backhand because you can get it closer. And he basically has said that he thinks it's kind of like the coward's way out to throw the forehand, because yes, you can make the island with more ease, but it also means you're much less likely to get the birdie. And the thing is, we watched him, of course, hit twice off the tree, go OB twice, throwing the backhand, and then he switched to the forehand. But we saw him go back to the backhand in round 3. Mm-hmm. And then this time, maybe because of how close it was and because the wind was kicking, he did go to the forehand. But yes, Kyle Klein's score was bouncing all over the place on UDisc.
Yeah, so then it drops down to 24, and they're like, they're showing a bogey on hole 1, and I'm like, did they mess up the UDisc? Because I think I saw a tweet from Leah Sinigini.
Mm-hmm.
Hope I pronounced that right. Sinigini, thank you. Leah Sinigini, that said, look at my card, and it showed UDisc scoring. So I think they were using UDisc for this tournament as their primary scoring platform. And so when Kyle Klein's score gets changed, I was like, oh, maybe they just put it in wrong. And when they sat down and went over their scores, they realized that he actually didn't get a birdie on hole 1.
For what it's worth, there were multiple live scoring issues this weekend where this exact thing happened, where there was kind of a rookie scorekeeper following a card that made a bunch of mistakes, and then they had to correct the mistakes after the round, which is obviously really bad and a problem that you don't want to have at a major. But for it to be bouncing all around crazy like that with a score, like where the score really truly matters a great deal, not just some random person on the 7th card, that was crazy.
It was nuts. So Paul comes up. He's got no clue where Kyle's at, actually, based on this error. And so he's just like, you know what, I'm just going to run it. And he cashes what was an excellent putt. And it was high. Like, it wasn't that he scraped it over the top. Like, that thing was probably OB if he missed, because he just full sent that. And
60-footer.
And then, is there anybody else in this world who runs that putt on hole 18?
Yeah, I mean, let's set the context here. So McBeth throws, so he's one stroke. No, the birdie
even.
on 17 ties the score. Kyle Klein is in the clubhouse at this point. McBeth has a chance to win with a birdie on 18. His tee shot is dangerously low and to the left. And there's OB left and there's water left. And it sneaks inbounds by maybe a foot. But he's way short and not really in an attacking position for that fairway. And he throws a really super second shot to even get to where he did. He basically got up to the top of the hill, just past the corner. So he had a look from 40 feet? Probably.
I think he was just before where that OB drops off to go down.
Right.
So there's
top of the hill,
right,
basically.
there's that up the hill. So there's that little J shape. He did not quite get into the pocket green, just a touch short of that.
And so
I don't know what the distance was.
Ian and Philo were like, he's going to lay up. We're going to a playoff. And I was like, he's probably going to lay up, but he might try to run it. And as soon as he started standing over the putt, it was very clear immediately he's going to try to run this putt.
Oh, yes.
And the thing is, it's not just like any old putt, right? If you miss, it's gone. It's going to go down the hill. And I think if he had airballed, that's exactly what would have happened. It would have just gone straight down the hill, out of bounds, tournament over. But he catches chains. He chains out left side, and it falls down below the little wooden boundary and settles, which is actually pretty close to the basket. And it's a kind of a weird putt because you're putting very high uphill, but he was able to make the putt and force the playoff. Yeah. But you're right. I really don't think there are very many other players that would have actually tried to run it there, because it's easy to just lay up and say, let's go to the playoff. I'm playing against a kid who's hardly been on tour, and I'm Paul McBeth. And, you guarantee going to a playoff. If you miss there, if he airballs, it's gone and you lose. But you know what? I think that's one of the things that makes McBeth McBeth. The fact that he goes for it there. And he almost made it. And how sick would that have been? There's so many moments where it's almosts.
Almost. The big thing about it is that putt was fortunate to settle after he missed. Did you see Chris Dickerson's roll away?
Oh, that's one of the craziest. I was doing some tweeting on Ultra Real Disc Golf Twitter account of just the action because it was so crazy, and I was like, should I tweet about this, because it was not relevant to the competition really. No, but it was like one of the grossest OBs of all time. Like, the guy throws a perfect shot, and it's like, no, I'm gonna go up over here. Oh, I'm gonna just go down this hill over here, and I'm never gonna stop. I'm gonna go right down into the out of bounds. Crazy.
It was crazy, but and then and then we get the live stream issues.
Oh no. Okay, so I want to hear how it happened for you, because let me tell you what happened for me.
Okay.
And then I want to hear what happened for you.
Okay.
So, all right, I had the stream up, and I was working on the broadcast. Okay, so Milwaukee DGN Studios were doing the main show, but they had a whole setup inside of Rock Hill where there were a bunch of fixed cameras and the booth and interview stuff, and we were working on some of that stuff. I was working on,
Okay.
setting up Ian and Philo and Hannah and Juliana. And so
Okay.
I'm in the broadcast environment. And I've got the stream pulled up on my computer. And I'm watching the stream. And, of course, I'm just engrossed by the action. And my stream, so that, everything happens on 18. And then my stream just winks out. It just ends. It doesn't, freeze. It ends. That is the end of the stream. And, of course, there's a playoff coming. So I'm like, oh, God, this is not a good time for the stream to end. And so I refreshed the page. Didn't help. I went back into the main Disc Golf Network zone. And I navigated back to wherever. It's confusing to navigate all that stuff. And I see a live final round stream. I click it, and my stream is fine. It's back. And I was able to watch the playoff from that point forward. But what I understand is that this was not the common experience, and that other people just lost a stream straight up and never got it back. So what happened for you? I want to know what happened for you.
Yeah, so very, very similar. And it actually happened right when Philo finished a sentence and then it cut off. And it reminded me when occasionally TV channels won't appropriately plan for overtime games, and then they'll cut to regular programming.
Right.
Right. So if the NFL slot is supposed to be done at 10, but they're in overtime, or baseball games especially, I think is where it happens the most, where we're in the 14th inning or whatever, and then it just cuts and you lose it. That's what it felt like. It felt like oh, our time allotment is done. We were at our 18 holes. It cuts off. So we go in, we refresh the stream, doesn't work. We close our browser, pull it back up again, navigate to it, click on it, and when we clicked on it, it pulled up the Throw Pink Women's Championship broadcast from finals.
Oh.
And we're like, did we miss it? Did it close the stream? And then I look up in the top and see the description. It's oh, Throw Pink. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. So I close it out again, and I go navigate back in, get back in, and then it pops up with McBeth standing on the tee pad of the playoff. So we missed Kyle Klein's shot because we couldn't get our stream was being finicky. So I didn't know. They were like, Paul just needs to put it close. And I'm like, did Kyle miss the Mando? No clue. Zero clue where we were at there. So
crazy.
I know people are
pissed.
Livid.
People are really pissed. I was looking in the comments. And,
Uh-huh.
and this followed a dropout of the stream previously in the round, which appeared
I heard
to be
it was on hole 17.
I don't really remember.
I saw a lot of people say they missed hole 17 in the social media.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. A tough day to have internet problems. Milwaukee having internet problems. Not good. And
A tough tournament.
I don't know what they're going to do. I honestly don't know what they're going to do. Because a bunch of people, it's just a terrible time to have a dropout. And if you're not on a computer, right, if you're on your phone or whatever, you may not have ever been able to get the stream back up.
Mm-hmm.
And then and it was quick, right? You go from 18.
It was.
Within 5 minutes, they're teeing off on one, and it's two shots, and then it's pretty much over at that point. It was can Kyle Klein hit a miracle, and is McBeth going to miss a circle's edge putt? No, he's not going to miss a circle's edge putt. He's going to bang that putt. Of course he's going to bang that putt. Incredible environment out there, by the way. So many spectators lining the fairways. This was how disc golf should be consumed in person. Okay, for so many years, we have seen the predominant style of following disc golf be follow the lead card, walk the course with the lead card the whole time. And I think there will still be people who want to do that, and I think that's fine. But what we saw out there today was people posting up on a fairway and just watching. And some people moved around. It was awesome. They're going around. You see, but there were just people who sat along hole 5 or sat by hole 17. And some of the drone shots were incredible to see, right? Just people packed really along the fairways. But anyway, back to the stream thing. What should they do?
I do not I don't have an answer, and I don't want to answer that. In any other tournament, it's no big deal. They're like, what the heck? What's going on? But, you know, they've consistently proven that they've got a good track record throughout the year, so everyone gets over it. The fact that it was already controversial that people were paying $20 or $25 to watch this tournament, and then to miss the playoff because of technical issues, it's bad. And the problem, here's the big problem, right? People are going to complain and moan about it for a little while, and then the Pro Tour Championship is going to happen, and then we're all going to forget about it
Right.
until next year, when USDGC is like, hey, it's going to cost you $20 to watch it again. And that's when the pitchforks and the torches are going to come out. And people are going to lose it.
Yeah, I mean, what's weird is that it's like unclear what happened. I don't think anyone really knows what happened, why the stream closed at that time, froze up at that time, why it was weird, and for some people got it back, other people didn't get it back.
Right.
I don't know. Was that a Vimeo side problem? Was that an internet problem? It's literally I don't think anyone knows the answer to that question right now. So what I understand is that the Pro Tour had a big meeting about it, and there's going to be it's going to be addressed in some way. But I don't know anything else.
How about McBeth's emotion though after he made that putt in the playoff? Like, we've seen McBeth win a lot of tournaments, including majors.
Literally forgot how many majors he'd won.
But I don't know. It felt like just the rawest of emotion after he made that putt.
I think it makes sense. Think about the year he's had.
Yeah.
It's been tough. This is somebody who wins a lot. This is somebody who was in a perfect position to win the World Championships. Had done it. Mm-hmm. He had won it. It was over. Until it wasn't. And he like was rattled, and then he played bad in the playoff, and James Conrad pulled off this incredible win. And I mean, that's kind of have been in his mind until today when he dropped that putt in. And, you know, he didn't even really play that good of a round today. He shot 4 under. He kind of barely hung on. Like, he's lucky Kyle Klein was as far back as he was. Because Kyle Klein couldn't be stopped. I mean, this kid is unbelievable. He is unbelievable. And he won, remember, he won his tournament this year, his Elite Series event, in a playoff. I mean, I think it's tough to have to tee off first in that spot. And he just left a little left. That was a mistake that most people made. Most people didn't overthrow. They just underthrew slightly and caught the trees on the left. And then McBeth almost aced the damn thing and had to end up coming with a 30-footer back towards the basket. But, yeah, I think the emotion is coming from McBeth because it's been a difficult year.
Yes.
It's just simply not been to his level, and it's got to be frustrating. Mm-hmm. And so that's like catharsis for him to hit that one. And to get into, not that he needs to win any more majors for him to be one of the greatest players ever in the history of the sport that will be in the Hall of Fame and talked about for generations. But this puts him into a group of just 4 players that's won multiple, more 3 or more USDGC titles. And, you know, think about the company that he holds. It's Climo, it's Schultz, and it's Schusterich. And so now he's there trying to chase down Climo. And so I think it's about more than winning another major. To be honest, like, that's not that important. Besides continuing to prove that he's great. I think it's more about what this means, like, for the legacy and for how it felt just this particular season when things weren't going that great.
And I think part of it goes with the fact that last year we only had USDGC. It's the only major. So Paul McBeth is going now 2 years, and it felt like there was going to be a drought, that he just wasn't going to get another major. And it was beginning to look like there was a pre-COVID McBeth and a post-COVID McBeth. And I'm not saying that he was done or that, but the past year especially, we've talked a lot about the fact that he felt off, and it is compounded by the fact you have a lot of new players who are generating and participating in the discourse of, yeah, Paul McBeth is good. Like, I see his track record, but like, look what he's done since I've arrived at the sport. Like, nothing that stellar compared to some of the others. And so you have thousands, tens of thousands of new players who are fueling that discourse, that Paul cannot be immune to. He has to hear it. And it secures that place that he's still there. He's still at the top. And, for as much as we say the elite tier is Paul, Calvin, Ricky, Eagle, Ricky hasn't won a major since 2017, and Calvin and Eagle are still without majors. And
Eagle won Konopichte. I know it's easy to forget. He's not won a Worlds. He's not won a USDGC.
Can we create like a majors and then a majors, right? Like, right? Konopište and U.S. Women's, they're majors, but Throw Pink Championship and USDGC, those are majors. Capital M and lowercase m.
All right,
majors.
he's bringing it up. He's going there. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
All right.
All week on this podcast, we could not stop talking about Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship as if it was a major. And having watched it today, it's major.
Yes.
I know it doesn't have an M next to it on the PDGA.com website, but it's absolutely a major. And if it continues to play out every year, as it should, it deserves to eventually, you find a way to elevate it to major status. And I know it's awkward. And clearly Innova's dancing around it, right? In 2020, they run the Women's National Championship. They don't call it the U.S. Women's Championship because that's the PDGA's thing. It's the Women's National Championship, which is so different. And then this year, they run the same tournament with a different name. It's an A tier, and we're supposed to just like suspend our disbelief and pretend that, oh, it's just an A tier, but it's not. You got to qualify to get in. And you have players clearly playing with incredible intensity and focus out on the course. And we're going to talk more about 17. But this is the first time, because this is only, this event has only happened twice in the modern era for FPO, where 17 showed up and had a major impact on the results of the tournament. It was extremely close all around. Missy Gannon and Valerie Mondahano, neck and neck. Missy Gannon steps up to the tee, and she overturns her forehand, and it's gone. OB.
Sails it.
I mean, not even
I wonder
close.
if she got that disc back.
Not even close. Just like hits the headwind, flips, and is just way left. And so it's like, okay, the door is open for Valerie Mondahano. And Valerie Mondahano steps up and does the exact same thing.
And Valerie had almost aced it with this forehand shot. Like, this was her bread and butter. She was comfortable in this.
And she overturned
and then
flipped it left.
And it's what we got to say, though. It's not over then, right?
No.
She still very much is in this. And then she goes OB again, shorts it. And I think that second mistake was a mistake of experience, right? Because I think
she hasn't been there.
She hasn't been there, and so after getting just absolutely rattled by throwing long when she knew that she gave up the opportunity, I don't think she was just able to say, you cannot short this, you have to commit, right? Because I think going long a second time rather than shorting it is better. Like, give it a chance.
Sure.
Give it a chance.
Sure. I mean, even if you have to pitch up and take the, at that point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if if you have to take the 5 because you end up going, 35 feet past, okay. It's better than going OB again.
Yeah.
And
yep.
But here's why I bring this whole thing up right now. Valerie Mondahano was crying.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah. After she went OB the second time. She was so close. She'd played so great all week. She put herself in a position to win. She had this opportunity to pick up at least a stroke on Gannon, if not 2. And she went OB twice, and that was the tournament. And she's crying. Does this happen if this is a Pro Tour event? No. Because this is a major. This is a major. And we don't have to call it the women's national champion. I don't care. But it's a major. And I don't think that, like, as we continue to establish disc golf, at some point, what the PDGA says is a major isn't necessarily going to be what we consider a major title. And some of them will, but like next year, is it going to feel more important to win the Champions Cup, which has a capital M next to its name, or is it going to feel more important to win the Pro Tour Championship when who knows how much money will be on the line? This year, $30K. Last year, $20K. You tell me. I mean, Champions Cup's going to be some weird thing. And it'll be fun. I mean, like, and yeah, it's a major, but like, it's not going to feel as important as winning the Pro Tour Championship, which is basically becoming a major because it's got so much money on the line. And yeah, it doesn't have an M, but it's going to mean a lot when we think about who was the best player this season. Well, okay, who won the Pro Tour Championship, right? That's going to be one of the questions you ask. You're probably not going to say who won the Champions Cup. Like, it's a data point, but it's going to be at the bottom of the totem pole, and it's probably going to be below the Pro Tour Championship, if I had to guess. That's just me.
So here's what I got to say about that. In addition, like, we can talk about that right here and now. Katrina Allen has won Worlds. Missy Gannon has Elite Series win, as well as a major in the Throw Pink Championship. Paige Pierce has a lot of wins, but she has the major that feels the least important to me, which is the U.S. Women's, especially given the way that U.S. Women's was run this year and the types of courses that it was on. Now, like, no disrespect to Paige. She smoked it. She killed that tournament. But it does not feel as important as this win. And so, do you think that if Missy Gannon or Katrina Allen or Paige, I'll say any 3 of those, win the Pro Tour Championship, that you can consider them a lock for Player of the Year?
Ooh. I'm going to leave this as a tease for Tuesday's show because I think it's an excellent question. I want to dwell on it. I want you listeners to dwell on it. I want you to send us your thoughts to upshot@ultiworld.com. Player of the Year conversations have become very interesting after this weekend. Mm-hmm. The door is open for multiple players in both MPO and FPO heading into Hornets Nest.
I think that the Pro Tour Championship could be your decider. Very easily.
I agree.
In either division.
I agree.
But more to come Tuesday.
What do you think about the way Missy Gannon played today?
I mean, it was enough. That's it. That's all. I mean, that's what I would have to say about it. It wasn't spectacular. It wasn't flashy. It was enough. And you know, in a world where Haley King decides that she's going to go on a tear, or in a world where Valerie Mondahano, who was closer to Missy Gannon going into this round, decides to go on a tear, I don't know if doing just enough would have been enough. But Kona and Sarah, who both played excellent today, were too far back. And so all Missy needed to do was just play the course, stay out of too much trouble, play even, and you're fine. And that's all it took. It felt a little bit like Paul's round, in my opinion. Both our winners had okay rounds.
But that's stroke play, right?
That's stroke play. That's stroke play. So
it was not a brilliant round. It was not a terrible round. She hit some big putts. I mean, the putt on 17 was super clutch, ultra clutch from Gannon.
Yes.
Not as big monster distance as McBeth, but still, I mean, a really tough putt from about 40 feet, maybe just inside that. And
it's equally important.
Oh, no question.
Yeah, because that changes the way that hole 18 shapes up for Missy. And granted, I mean, it cuts down to one stroke, but that's different pressure. Because when you got two strokes, you know you can just pitch, putt, done.
Well, because you think about how different it would have been, right? If she takes a 5 there and she drops to 1 under, Konopanis had a look at a birdie on 18.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, unfortunately for Konopanis, just the putter has not been there. She was 42% from circle 1 today and didn't hit a circle 2 putt. And, you know, I have to say, when I saw her lining up on 18, I was like, she's going to miss it. But the point is, Missy Gannon has put herself in a position where now she would have to make kind of a big mistake to lose. And Konopanis, even if she hits that putt and moves to 1 under, it wouldn't be enough. Unless Missy made a mistake and went OB. But Missy played 18 great all week, and she was able to lay up and win with a par.
True.
And, you know, here's the thing I want to point out. Missy Gannon wins this year with a 2 under. Last year, the winning score was 21 under from Paige. Now, I want to point out par changed. The course barely changed. Par changed. It got 2 strokes shorter, I guess. So that is to say that you figure 8 strokes of those 21 from last year are gone. So if Paige played exactly the same way that she did last year, this year she wins with a 13 under. And the winning score here was 2 under. So what's going on? Was that conditions? I mean, here's the thing that I think is weird, okay? Owen Scoggins took a 10 and still finished in 6th place at 2 over, just 4 shots off the win. Like, is this just a situation where the players who are capable of putting down a 10 or a 12 under at this tournament just simply did not show up and do it? Was it the wind? Was it the rain? Obviously, we saw what happened to Paige. I mean, that's almost something that's inexplicable. But, you know, Katrina Allen also just, after playing great last year, she shot 17 under, no-showed this tournament. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's very strange. Like, you know, Missy Gannon played fine. She was good, but she wasn't great. And she still won.
So here are some ratings for you. Paige Pierce last year, 1039, 987, 1003, 984. Okay, so worst round was 984.
Okay.
Missy Gannon had a 973, 963, 1000, and 974. So Missy Gannon had one round, her 4 under, that would have been good enough to beat any of Paige's rounds last year. It was a good round. The 1,000 rated round was very good.
Excellent.
But all the other 3 rounds were worse than Paige's worst round last year. If you look at 2nd place last year, Katrina Allen, 1013, 973, 1003, 998, which means that Katrina's worst round, the 973, is right around what Missy's average was.
I mean, you know, to some extent, there were conditions that made it challenging. I think it was windier this year. It was obviously, I can't remember, for the women's round last year, I don't think it rained in that final round. I think that was just for the MPO, and they got crushed, you know, in that final round with the heavy rain for a while. But
I think you're right.
So I think that's part of it. I think the conditions are part of it. Obviously, ratings sort of account for that to some extent.
I think they do.
Because of like, where is the, you look at the propagators, what are the players shooting relative to their rating, and that sort of should capture some of that. So it's just I just think it's a notable thing. I mean, Paige Pierce, she shot an even par today, by the way. Big time bounce back round. I mean, not an amazing round, but very solid. And you take away this just bizarre collapse in round 3, and she probably wins this tournament pretty comfortably at around like 8 to 10 under. I mean,
if she shoots even again, she's 7 under.
Right.
And that's still good enough.
Wild.
It did not feel. I don't want to take anything away from Missy because she did enough, and when you're playing stroke play and you're watching the scores, that's all you need to do. You don't need to try and shoot a 5 under when you know that even is going to win you the tournament, or that, especially at the end, that even can win you the tournament. It felt, though, like it's odd. It's odd to me that the women didn't do as well as I think several of the women we know can play. Paige, Katrina, Haley, Sarah Hokum, all of them we know. I mean, even last year at the Women's National Championship, Sarah Hokum, Heather Young, and Owen Scoggins, 8 under. It was 9 under, 9 under, and 8 under respectively. I think any of them would have won the tournament.
Yeah, when you account for the change in par, their scores this year were similar.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. I forgot about the 8.
Yeah,
you're right. But that's still close. Then that's still very close to what Missy's at now. Right. So they are pretty much. Yeah,
I think also part of it here is just Winthrop. It's Winthrop.
It's just Winthrop.
Welcome to 17.
What did Paul win?
Welcome to the arena. It's just it's a physically challenging, mentally challenging course.
Paul won with a 26 under. Is that correct?
I think so. And that score was down
26. That's, and I don't think they changed. Did they change par from last year? I'm gonna look it up.
No, I don't think
2
so.
seconds.
I don't think so.
We're gonna double check.
But yeah, I mean, we've seen scores for sure in the the mid 30s. I think we've even seen winning scores up in the 40s at this tournament.
What was par for this? What's par again?
I don't remember.
I don't either. But Dickerson won with a 30 last year, with hurricane-like weather in round 4.
Yeah.
Right, where he shot 2 over because of that weather. So, that's down as well.
There were fewer double-digit scoring rounds this year, for sure, compared to years past, for sure. And again, we had some wind, we had some rain. It was not the easiest conditions, and players were dealing with that. It's just, I think it's that tournament, and it's also, think about this, and I don't know how much this matters, but I want to point it out. Last year, for example, and I think in years past, there just wasn't as much of a grind. There wasn't as much of a challenge to execute week in and week out with important tournaments all the time. Not that the players didn't play a lot; they played plenty. Maybe even in some cases more than they play now, but they're playing A tiers on off weekends on a regular basis. Now you have back-to-back Pro Tour events in the middle of the season. And, there's more media, and there's more press conferences, and there's more, sponsorship requirements, and on and on. And so it's been a long season. I think players might be tired. It's hard. And you have to show up and have intense focus at Winthrop. It requires such a great deal of focus. You can't. Small mistakes get punished more than at other courses. You don't just get to pitch up for par. A lot of times, if you make a small mistake, you're out of bounds. And so I think that, last year there was lots of space between tournaments because there was so much stuff that was canceled. This year, people had to get back into the rhythm, just like all of us coming out of quarantine. And I think it's possible that at this point in the year, it's just very difficult mentally to step up and execute. And that's what I think makes it so special to see Missy Gannon get that win and like prove again that she's at this competition level. And Paul McBeth to show up after having some struggles at points this year, having some of his worst results, and get another major title. Number 3 at USDGC. There's something about doing it through the adversity that makes it even more special. And I want to say this. People can hate on this course all they want. It delivers the goods every single year. It is awesome competition every year. Every year. Yep. I don't know what more you want.
Every year.
The spectators, ask the spectators. Ask someone that you know that went to this tournament and spectated it, and they're going to tell you they had an amazing time because it's just an incredible course to spectate. It's extremely spectatorgenic. Going to coin that one. I'm sure that's going to stick. And that's important. That's important. You can't have this at MVP Open. Maple Hill may be a wonderful disc golf course, but it's not going to host the USDGC.
I want to give a huge shout out to both these tournaments for their payouts. $20,000 to Mr. McBeth and $6,000 to Missy Gannon. I believe the $20,000 is the highest payout of the season.
It is.
Will be beat
until next weekend.
But is the highest this week of the season. However, that is not the highest for the women at $6,000. That was beat out by Worlds, where Katrina Allen won $10,000 and Paige got $6,000 for second. But still, second best. My measuring stick, I went over and checked out Ledgestone, and it beat Ledgestone by $2,000, and I was like, "This is a great payout." Then, so that's kind of how I measured it, and I think it's. Okay. I think.
A Botchcott in the chat pointed out that Paige won $10,000 at the match play championships, and that's true.
Yes. Okay. So this will be third place then, but so great payouts, and I think Charlie, you told me an interesting news about McBeth and his winnings.
Yeah, I mean, I think he announced this earlier in the year, but I kind of forgot. He's donating his tournament winnings this year to his foundation, Paul McBeth Foundation, and so $20,000 in the pot for the McBeth Foundation. I mean, that's a big jump for USDGC. USDGC's never had a payout this big. It was.
I was shocked.
It was 10. It's been 10. It's been 12. I think one year was 15 a few years back, but it dropped back down. Credit to them, right? They stepped up. They made it 20. That's a huge number. I mean, we're getting used to payouts getting bigger and bigger, but like this is a really big number. And I know it's going to get broken next week at the Pro Tour Championship, but for kind of this event that sort of just runs it on its own one time per year, to put that number up, I think is pretty impressive. And that's what needs to happen, right? When there's more spectators, when there's pay-per-view, right? Some of that money's got to be flowing to the players, and I think clearly still very relevant in terms of monetary incentive for players.
Yeah, and that, you talked about how money makes a major in
at least in
some
part.
cases.
Yeah, at least in part.
In part, yep. I mean, the Throw Pink Women's Championship is delivering on everything that I want out of a major, and I will talk when we talk next year, and we're talking about players and we're making picks. I am going to say Missy Gannon, one-time major winner, and I'm going to do so without shame, without reservation. She got it. She earned it. She deserves it. If Missy, I don't know if it means anything for you, but if you want us to send you something that says like we recognize Missy Gannon as the and her first major win, we'll do it. We'll sign it. We'll send it to you.
Well, I got a chance to catch up with Missy, and I asked her specifically about this.
Okay.
So let's listen. Well, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Just what was this week like? I mean, this was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, after a couple of first 2 rounds, like, what's going through your mind? Are you
Yeah.
seeing yourself in a position to win at that point?
Honestly, yeah. It's the first 2 rounds. Shooting only 1 over honestly wasn't obviously terrible,
No.
and still kept me in position. But the problem was that I always came into 17, round 1 and 2, under par, and then I took triple bogey and then a triple bogey in second round, and I just kind of blew my entire, what I had worked for the whole round on 17, and then I, got off on 18 pretty solid every round. So I just knew I needed to change something and not be so afraid or timid on 17 and just get out of there with at least just a bogey at worst. So luckily the last 2 rounds I was able to not only keep it pretty clean, especially yesterday, but also just not let the final couple holes get to me. So that's really just the difference, and just keeping it cool and not having too many expectations and just letting myself just do the work and not think too much.
Technically, this is just an 8 tier.
Yeah.
Does this feel like a bigger tournament than that? And does this feel like a bigger win than the Elite Series win you got earlier this year?
I'm not so sure how it compares to Des Moines in terms of, how elite it feels, but I do think with the fact that it's such a prestigious course and event for the men, especially being a major, so just the fact that we're playing the same course and that it was a major last year for us, and it's the inaugural event for Throw Pink, so there's a lot going on there. I do still feel like it was a big win for me too, to just get another win after kind of putting my name up on the top of the list. Just felt like I kind of proved, like, the first win, it did get cut short, it still was a great win. Then I get to come back here and say, hey, that wasn't a fluke or anything. I'm a competitor and I can win out here. So I don't know, I think they're just awesome. Both of them are just awesome to win, and I'm just so happy to be to win 2 times this year.
It was an incredibly tight round. You have a lead most of the way, and then another mistake on 17. What's going through your mind at that point? Because you had the box first, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, you can make it from the drop zone and clean up, take bogey. But with Valerie right there, are you nervous?
Yeah, definitely. I know that 17, she had played 17, Valerie had played 17 flawlessly, I feel like, every other round. I've seen the highlights of her forehand on that hole. We had maybe a slightly different wind, so that could have played a factor in both of our shots, honestly. I turned mine over, she turned hers over, and then it just all comes down to getting that shot inbounds from that first drop zone. And I had struggled with that the first 2 rounds, so I just said, I don't care, just go a little long, play on the safe side, maybe try to make a putt. And, obviously it's very situational. She ended up going OB twice, so at that point I kind of could relax a little bit, but I also didn't quite know what was happening behind me, or in front of me, I suppose. So at that point I was just kind of playing match play with Valerie, and then so I knew, okay, I can just give this a good bid and hopefully get out of here with just a bogey, and I'm just really excited that one stuck and got to kind of give myself some breathing room, and the rest just sort of went from there. 18, I played well last few rounds, so I just was planning on doing the same, and I'm glad that it worked out that way.
Was that putt on 17 the biggest of the tournament for you, do you think?
I think so, honestly, because, I tell myself that a bogey should be the worst score I take on that hole, and especially after taking 2 6s on that hole previously, I just think that was the most pressuresome putt in that moment, regardless of what Valerie was doing, because now to come and think of it, it could have been for a lot more, coming down the stretch on 18. So, I think it was probably the longest putt I made this weekend.
You obviously played really well last year, but it feels like you've leveled up a little bit in the last 3-4 months. What has taken you to that new level and, allowed you to come out here and get a win on a very difficult course?
Confidence in my discs. I mean, it's my second year on Discraft, so I just know all of my discs so well. And then also, confidence. I just tell myself I can't be beat, whether that's true or not. It doesn't matter. If I can put my mental state in that, if I can just keep myself confident and tell myself, if I'm making my putts and I'm hitting my lines, I'm running for the win. So, it's okay to be a little cocky, and whether it's just mostly internally, but I think that it helps so much.
$6,000 win today, $30,000 on the line next weekend. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you shift mentality-wise from this 4-round stroke play event to the sort of quasi-stroke play of next weekend's Pro Tour Championship?
I kind of like it, I kind of like the format. It's sort of match play in a way, and luckily I played the Clash last weekend to kind of get some competitive practice in there. I call it getting paid to practice, kind of. So, I mean, it's nice to take a week off, but I think that's going to be helpful now that I already kind of have a game plan and I know what I did wrong and how to fix it, so I don't have to scramble this week to kind of like figure out what I need to do on that course. So, that would be sweet to go back to back, and obviously the Pro Tour Championships is going to be the biggest event of anybody's life. So, so with that purse and everything on the line, it just would be an awesome way to cap off the season.
So much more to talk about here. Great to hear from Missy Gannon, and you heard what she had to say, like how that this was a big tournament, that Des Moines was a big tournament, and that the Pro Tour Championship that's coming up is going to be maybe the biggest tournament. And why? Because of the money, right? Winning $30K, like, that changes your year. That would change my year to win $30K. Yeah. So I don't know that you really answered the question about whether this is like a major, but I think that it's up to fans to decide that, and for players to decide that to some extent, right? Players are going to be looking at the Pro Tour Championship as a tournament they very much want to qualify for and win. And how much more important does it need to get than that for it to be considered an extremely important tournament, whether or not it has an M? So there's so much more to get to. We have many, many more topics to tackle. Email us your thoughts. We're going to take some mail. Upshot@ultiworld.com. Hit us up in the Discord if you are a subscriber. And don't miss our subscriber bonus segment, where I got a chance to catch up with past USDGC champions and ask them about how winning USDGC changed their career. So I didn't get a chance to talk to every single player, and we heard McBeth answer the question on yesterday's show, and subscribers will get a chance to hear from a number of other winners, including Jeremy Colling, Barry Schultz, James Conrad, and more. So check that out. discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe. The Upshot is brought to you by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Go to pounddiscgolf.com to learn about their custom programs for making your own custom Octothorpe or other bags like their Carlton, and keep an eye on their social media for their drops. It's at pounddiscgolf.com. The Upshot is also brought to you by Skybreed Discs. Check out skybreeddiscs.com in order to pick up all of your discs that you need. One of the best online retailers out there, and they've got all kinds of options. You can get free shipping on orders over $50. Otherwise, very low flat rate shipping, cheap discs, tons of inventory, skybreeddiscs.com. And by Diameter Apparel. That's what the pros wear. And if you want to shoot your best, feel confident, you need to look confident. So go over to diameterapparel.com and get your hands on some of their sweet gear, and you can dress just like the pros. So that is going to do it for this live show here. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back with our regularly scheduled episode on Tuesday as we continue to take a look at USDGC and the Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship. And then on Thursday, we'll get you ready for the Pro Tour Championship, $250,000 purse, and it'll be at Hornets Nest just up the road in Charlotte just about 30 minutes from Rock Hill and USDGC. Josh, final thoughts on what we saw today.
It's going to sound ironic because of the technology issues, but if you still aren't convinced that live stream is the way that disc golf should be moving forward, you're wrong. You're flat out wrong. The tension of McBeth's putt on 18 was palpable. Amazing. This is the year that converted me. I used to be a Jomez. I used to be a diehard Jomez, and I still appreciate their coverage. Don't get me wrong. I think they have a great product. But if you're not watching live disc golf, if you're not taking the time to put that up on your weekend, at least the final round, you're missing out. That's it. That's what I gotta say. I think the Throw Pink Women's Championship, I think USDGC, I think both FPO and MPO of Worlds, it proved it. It proved it this year. It delivered on all the goods. And that's it. That's my last thought.
On Tuesday, we're talking Player of the Year. We're going down the leaderboard and talking about some other players. I mean, Joel Freeman. Wow, he came pretty close and just couldn't find the putter down the stretch. But we'll get to all that on Tuesday. Thank you so much for listening. And shoot us an email with your thoughts, what you want to hear us talk about, upshot@ultiworld.com. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood, signing off and saying we'll talk to you on Tuesday.